The July 31 non-waiver trade deadline was fun, wasn't it? Lots of teams were involved in moving lots of players around the majors. Trades can still happen, of course. You remember the Justin Verlander-to-Houston deal, but the process is a tiny bit more complicated. Before any player on a 40-man roster can be traded in August, he has to pass through revocable waivers first. If a player passes through waivers, he's eligible to be traded to any team. If a player is claimed, the team with the worst record on that day gets priority. If more than one team claims the same player, the team has three options. 1. Work out a trade with the claiming team within 2 days. 2. Let the claiming team have him, and that team assumes the entirety of the remaining contract. 3. Pull the player off waivers and keep him on the roster. The same scenario is valid through the end of the season, but to be eligible for postseason play, a player must be moved by August 31. Most players, even the ones teams have no intention of ever moving, are run through revocable waivers at some point in August. Teams like to have their options open, so let's take a look at some of the guys who could possibly move in August. Matt Harvey, Reds. It's a little surprising that Harvey's still wearing a Reds uniform. He's a free agent after the year, and he was never really part of the club's long-term plans. They traded for him after his early struggles with the Mets, hoping that he would recover his form so they could flip him for future value. In 14 starts with Cincinnati, Harvey posted a 4.44 ERA. That's not best-case scenario stuff, but it's certainly far from worst case. Clubs were reportedly interested in July, but the Reds apparently didn't receive an offer they thought was good enough. If Harvey passes through waivers, at some point an injury issue in a contender's rotation should give the Reds enough leverage to move the right-hander. Adam Jones, Orioles Yes. Jones exercised his 10-5 veto rights and told the Orioles they couldn't trade him before the July 31 non-waiver trade deadline. But here's the thing, the Orioles traded a good portion of their major league roster, and the reality is that this Baltimore team has a very real possibility of becoming only the third team in the 162-game schedule era to finish with a winning percentage below .300 for the season. They're at .306, 33.75, entering action on Thursday. Is that how he wants to remember his final few months in an Orioles uniform? It's easy to imagine that Jones could change his mind at some point in August and wind up with a contender before September arrives. Josh Donaldson, Blue Jays when healthy. Donaldson is one of the best players in baseball. He's only played 36 games this season, though, spending most of the season on the disabled list with cap issues. He's there now too, which is why he's still on Toronto's payroll. He's a free agent after the season, and this season has not gone as the Blue Jays hoped. They traded away 6 players in July, and Donaldson would have been gone too, if healthy. But the risks of trading a free agent to be while the player is on the disabled list are too great for either side. The Jays can't afford to sell low on Donaldson, knowing he could come back in August. That's the expectation, show he's healthy and productive, and try to trade him then. Other teams can't offer peak Donaldson prospect prices. Because what if he has another setback and doesn't see the field again this year? At least if the Jays keep him, they have the option of extending a qualifying offer. Bud Norris, Cardinals when they traded starting center fielder Tommy Pham for 3 prospects who won't see the big leagues this year. The Cardinals acknowledge this is a transition season. Teams in transitions don't need free agent to be closers who are having solid seasons, especially if they wouldn't be considered for a qualifying offer this offseason. It's a bit surprising Norris wasn't traded by July 31, and it would be very surprising if he's still here by the end of August. Norris won't be a closer for a World Series contender, but he's having a nice season. 3.07 ERA, 2.96 FIP, 11 thirds K9, 20 saves, and would be a solid piece in the late innings mix for a playoff-bound squad. Irvin Santana, Twin Santana missed the first couple months of the season after surgery on his right middle finger, so it's not surprising he was less than sharp in his first 2 starts off the disabled list. His totals in those 2 outings, 13 hits, 7 runs, 3 homers in 10 and 1/3 innings, were a big reason he wasn't traded by the July 31 deadline. But he was very consistent in 2016 and 2017, and if he finds that form soon, contenders will be interested in finding Santana a spot at the back of their rotation. His contract includes a $14 million team option for 2019, with a $1 million buyout. Starlin Castro, Marlins Castro has been a bright spot in Miami. He's batting .289 with a 109 ops plus, and his 2.5 WAR is his highest mark since 2012. He's not necessarily the go-to-have trade candidate, which is part of the reason he wasn't traded in July, but he's the type of veteran player a front office would have no problem bringing in should an injury issue arise at some point in August. He's owed $11 million in 2019, with a $16 million club option for 2020, with a $1 million buyout. If the Marlins want a decent return, they'll probably have to kick in some cash. Andrew McCutchen, Giants. The Giants reportedly consider trading McCutchen before the July 31 deadline. Should they have? On one hand, the Giants are only 5 games out of first place in the NL West and 5 out of the second wild-card spot, and larger deficits have been erased and less time. On the other hand, they're in 4th place in the NL West, 6 teams are between them, and a WC berth, and starter Johnny Cueto, Tommy John surgery, just joined Brandon Belt, knee, Jeff Samardzija, shoulder, Hunter Strickland, hand, on the disabled list. If they want to get some value from McCutchen, a free agent to be who won't get a qualifying offer after the season, they'll have to trade him now. For the season, he's batting .258 with 11 home runs and a .766 ops. Tyson Ross, Padres. There was a time, not too long ago, that Ross was one of the most underrated starters in the National League. In 64 starts for the Padres in 2014-15, the tall right-hander with the heavy sinker fashioned a .303 ERA, 3.11 FIP. Injuries derailed most of his next 2 seasons, though, and the Padres gave him a 1-year deal for 2018. Through the first 3 months, Ross was nearly back to his old self, posting a .332 ERA in 16 starts. An 8.87 ERA in 5 July starts, though, might have given contenders pause. If he shows early in August that was just a hiccup, he could be interesting to teams looking to round out their rotation. Almost all of the Nationals took a hard look at their roster heading into the July 31 deadline and decided they couldn't give up on a team with that much talent. Okay, cool. But what if they're still behind the proverbial 8 ball in late August? That could very well change the approach. Yes, they've won their first 2 games after the Tuesday afternoon deadline passed, but they're not playing the Mets again until late in the month. They're chasing the Braves and Phillies in the NL East. They host Atlanta in a 4-game series August 7-9, including a doubleheader, and play 3 in Philadelphia August 21-23. If things go south, especially in those 2 series, the Nationals have plenty of free agents to be who could be moved. At this point, they're not likely to deal Bryce Harper. He'll be claimed, no doubt, and probably claimed by a team not willing to pay the trade cost the Nationals will command, but guys like Daniel Murphy, Matt Adams, Kelvin Herrera, Ryan Madson, Mark Reynolds and Jeremy Hellickson would certainly be made available and draw interest.